Another dud. That's what I think when I walk into Barry's, a bar where this guy named Vincent wanted to meet up. Already I was preparing for a heartache. After all, it was the norm at this point. It made me wonder why I even kept my dating profile up sometimes. Was I a glutton for punishment? Or was it because, deep down, I knew the one for me was out there? As I opened the door, a million thoughts crossed my mind. What, would he stand me up? Or maybe just be a narcissistic jerk like the others? I headed to the bar to order a beer when I heard a voice behind me. "You're here already." I gasped, turning to see the voice. A tall, dark, and handsome man sat there, nursing a bottle of wine with a simpering smile. "Oh, hello, handsome." I sat there, taken aback at the man's words. He extended his hand and smiled. "Vincent Richards." "Ryder, it's nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too. You know, you're even more attractive than I imagined." The words melted my heart, and I nodded. "Thank you. Do you want to talk in the back?" "I was thinking that," he said. We headed there with our drinks, away from the stairs. Vincent and I hit it off almost immediately. The guy was not a douchebag, nor did he act like a narcissistic jerk. He was just nice. It was so different from the types of guys that I expected, but I enjoyed it. We talked about everything. I told him about my job, working for a banking company as their director of marketing. He chuckled. "A man with money." "I mean, I don't have the money, but I help," I said. "No, it's fine. I'm just..." "You're intriguing," he said, smiling. Thanks," I flushed. "What about you?" "Oh, this and that. I have a job. It's to make sure that all things go smoothly and justice is delivered where it needs to be." "So, like a cop?" I shuffled, curious about what he meant. "Are you like a cop?" "God, no! I would never," he retorted, affronted. I raised my hand, changing the subject to something where wouldn't get my head bitten off. Luckily, the outburst was one of a few, and soon the dust simmered. Vincent and I talked about other subjects, avoiding his strange job. Whatever. He was more interesting than the rest of the guys. After the date, we left, and I turned to Vincent. "I had a great time tonight, Vincent." "Likewise. Do you want to do something else next time?" Sure. Maybe axe throwing?" I offered. It was nearby, so it wouldn't be too much out of the way. "I'd like that," he purred. Vincent extended his hand to my face and caressed my cheek. "Wow, it's soft." He smiled, leaning in. "I had a good time tonight. Call me." I... I will." Vincent left. A mixture of emotions rushed through me. The desire for more and a curiosity about this guy. He was different. Much different. And yet, it was the best date I'd been on in a long time. It made me yearn for more, and I was excited about the next time. A week later. Vincent and I agreed to go axe throwing. He said he'd be there but didn't elaborate. I asked him how his week was, but he didn't say much about it. When I got there, I already saw him, sitting in the corner. His smoldering, dark brown eyes met mine, instantly sucking me in. Hey, sorry I'm late." "No, it's fine. You're looking nice." I flushed. "Thank you." "Come on, I'm buying." I tried to tell him no, that I could cover myself, but Vincent wasn't hearing it. He paid for us, and we started to go axe throwing. I was a lousy shot, but Vincent was something else. The guy was almost perfect with each shot, making head and body shots like it was second nature. "Wow, you're pretty good. You used to throw axes or something?" I asked, shocked. "More or less. Here, I can help you improve your shot." He stood behind me, his hands on my waist. Vincent's body leaned against mine, and that pungent cologne pierced my nostrils. I gasped, trying to find the right words, but it was impossible. I threw the axe, making the shot and sighing. "Thanks," I breathed, feeling heady. "You're welcome, Ryder," he replied, turning. "You're fun to be around." "You are too," I finally admitted, barely able to think straight. Why did Vincent turn me into such a mess? It was so rare feeling this way. I had it bad for him, and we'd only been on 2 dates. After leaving the axe throwing place, we walked towards the parking lot. The night sky shrouded us. I reached out and caressed Vincent's cheeks. I had a good time today. These dates are fun. They are. I enjoy being around you, Ryder. Same. With a hammering heart, I leaned in and kissed Vincent. I thought he'd pull away, but he instantly depended on the kiss. Vincent's hand caressed my waist, and his tongue pushed against my lips. I eagerly opened my mouth, indulging in the kiss. We made out for what felt like forever until Vincent pulled away. Catching my breath, I asked the one question I wanted to ask him. Do you want to come back to my place? A hookup wasn't totally out of the question. It was clear that Vincent liked me too. However, he shook his head. I'm sorry, I can't. But I do want to see you again. It's just... He glanced down at his phone and tensed up. I need to go. Alright. Call me, okay? I told him. I will. Vincent turned and walked away. I stood there, trying to catch my breath and stop my racing heart. The kiss was magnetic, almost magical. It almost turned into something more. Vincent wanted that, but he stopped himself. Why? What was his reasoning? When I got in my car and drove back home, the man left me with more questions than answers. A week later. The person you are trying to call has not set up their voicemail box. Grumbling, I hung up, sitting back and sighing. Another call straight to voicemail. It had been a week since the axe throwing date. Whenever I tried to contact Vincent, he never responded. Text didn't go through and his phone was off. Why? What was he doing? It felt wrong to want to pry into the man's life, but still. Dan messaged me asking if I wanted to work more hours, and Katie messaged me asking for details. Believe me, once I had an idea of what was going on, Katie, my best friend and confidant, would know all. My phone buzzed, and I half expected it to be Dan asking why I couldn't work more hours. Reaching for it, I was ready to ignore it when I saw the name. Vincent. Eagerly, I picked it up. Vincent! It's so good to hear from you! Hey, Rye. Sorry, I had a couple of personal matters to attend to. It's fine, I replied, even though the temptation to ask him what was going on seeped through me. Everything okay? Yeah, I just had some matters to deal with. Work's been a little crazy. I'm sorry for leaving so suddenly. Are you free this Friday? I was thinking we could meet at the park. I have something to give you. A gift? Already? It seemed a little bit forward, but Vincent was a strange guy. Sure, that's fine. I'm off this Friday anyway. Dan's allowing the company a 3-day weekend since we have a launch event in a couple of weeks. Good. It's a date. I'll text you the address. Vincent hung up, and I got the name of the park a moment later. Excitement filled my body, and the disappointment of his leaving early was long forgotten. A week later. Vincent and I walked through the park, making small talk and getting close. Whenever we walked, our hands brushed together. I'd steal glances at him, and he always seemed so serious. I wish I understood what he was thinking. Vincent's energy was all over the place, and it made me wonder just what secrets he was hiding. One thing I did notice was the guy had a utility belt. I couldn't make out what was in it, though. Vincent led me to the pavilion in the corner, nestled away from the rest of the people. He turned, fiddling with something in the utility belt, and pulled it out. For you. But why? I asked, slightly taken aback. I wanted to do something nice, to make up for disappearing the other day, he said. I smiled. Thanks, it's alright, I know duty calls. Still, open it, see what you got, he insisted. I unwrapped the gift and saw the name Dolce Vita on the bottle. No way, this was designer cologne. I pulled it from the packaging and inhaled the scent, nodding with approval. Wow, that's good. It is. I wanted to get you something special. I felt bad ditching you the other day. Things came up. Do you want to talk about it? Vincent shook his head. No, I don't want to. It's nothing to worry yourself with. But Vincent, I'm just glad to spend time with you. You're one of the few normal things in my life, Ryder. I want things to stay that way, he said. Normal? I didn't think our awkward as hell dates were normal in his eyes, but I guess they were. Still, one thing was certain. Vincent had secrets. Secrets he refused to share with me. I tried to pry and ask different questions, but it all led to the same thing. Vincent not telling me a darn thing and leaving me out. It flustered me, but I guess that's just the way things went. Giving up, I decided not to ask anymore. We talked about other subjects, enjoying our time together. When it was time to go, Vincent and I stood up. That's when I saw it. It was subtle but obvious. The small bits of dried blood. Vincent, your hand. He looked at it and then quickly wiped the blood out. Sorry, I cut myself earlier. Okay, it isn't because of something else, is it? His eyes narrowed. No, and it's for your own good if you don't ask any more questions. Ryder, I just want something normal. Something to make me forget my current life. I prefer to keep it that way. The words hurt, if I was being honest. We'd gotten so close that it made me wonder if he trusted me or not. I sighed and nodded. All right, I won't. He kissed me again and then smiled. By the way, we could get some dinner in a couple of weeks. My treat. Sure, I replied, feeling a little hollow. It hurt that Vincent didn't trust me, but maybe with time he'll tell me, or at least let me in a little. 2 weeks later. Vincent and I met up for dinner. Again, there were few calls or texts, and most of them were short and succinct. I noticed sometimes he called from a random number. When I asked about it, he said it was because of work. Yeah, work. Too bad half the time I felt like he was hiding everything from me, keeping me in the dark. I tried not to let it get to me, but it slowly drove me insane. When I got to the restaurant, some fancy Italian place, he was right there. I slipped into the seat and flashed a smile. Hey, sorry for being late again. My boss wanted me to take care of a few things. It's fine. I'm just glad you made it, Vincent replied with a smile. I missed you, Ryder. I hope my absence hasn't been too much. I shook my head. No, but I did miss you. That was an understatement. Vincent occupied so much of my attention, and sometimes I wondered if he felt the same way I did. I wanted to ask, but Vincent quickly changed the subject, talking about this place. I come here a lot with my work people, he said. Dang, you work for some millionaires or something? He shook his head. Nope, but I will say the chicken parm is great, along with any of the fish dishes. The quick dismissal bothered me, and it made me wonder why he did that. I brushed it off, and soon we talked about other subjects. The food came, and we ate. After ordering dinner, the server disappeared. By the way, I got you something else. Another gift? I felt bad, he reasoned. He reached down, pulling out the small container. That's when I noticed it. The tattoo. It was an eye. My gaze lingered there, along with a couple of fresh scrapes that were in the same place as the last ones. Thank you, I said with a smile, opening the contents. It was a fancy watch, one I'd want. This is... wow! Thank you again! No problem. I wanted to give you something you'd use. That I will, I chuckled, my eyes still on the tattoo. By the way, is your hand okay? I saw you had more marks and... My hand's fine. The tattoo is something I got ages ago. Back when I was freshly 18. Nothing special. Yeah, he said that, but I knew what fresh tats looked like. That was a fresh one. But I decided not to pry. Alright. Our dessert showed up before I asked more questions. Vincent was sweet and caring, but there was still tension. After we finished, Vincent took care of the bill. I tried to fight him on this, but he kept refusing me. We walked out, and I turned, looking at him. Taking a deep breath, I finally confessed how I felt. It was now or never. If I didn't do it now, I might not get another chance. Vincent, what's really going on? You're so nice and treat me like a boyfriend, but then you run away whenever I try to get close. I don't, Ryder. That's some bull, I snapped. Can you at least tell me? He hesitated, leaning in. His slender hands caressed my cheek. Our eyes met, and I saw in them pain, but also a desire to say something else. I want to, Ryder. More than anything else, I just can't yet, he said, his voice laced with desperation. Why? Because I don't want you to get hurt. It's complicated, and with something like this, I'd prefer to keep you away. It's for your own good, but I do like you, and when the time is right, you'll know. It seemed like a cop-out, but Vincent looked sincere. He wasn't lying. He did want to tell me. Smiling, I nodded. All right, I'll hold you to it, because I like you a lot, Vincent, and don't want to lose this. I like you a lot too, Ryder. So much that I want to tell you everything. He kissed me passionately, making out in the parking lot. As I pulled back, breathless, I spoke. Want to go back to my place? Vincent shook his head. No, let's go back to mine. Sounds like a plan. He drove me back to his place, and that night I spent it with them. It was magical, and the next morning I woke up so happy and satisfied. Turning, I saw a note from Vincent with only 2 words. I'm sorry. A week later. Vincent hadn't contacted me since the night we hooked up. I figured he'd tell me what was going on eventually, but it did little to ease my weary heart. I thought about him a lot. When I was putting together new designs, I'd sometimes grab my phone in hopes that Vincent would contact me. Each time, I was left with nothing. Dan had us busy. There was a work event, one at which I'd have to talk with Priscilla, one of our contacts. It seemed simple enough. Men in suits talked with each other. I looked around, eventually finding her. She was a little older than me, but she didn't look it. She was beautiful, but also as vain as can be. Waving, I walked over and we spoke. I wanted to go over a possible marketing idea that... Oh, please! I'm not interested in working for Dan's company, she snapped. I looked at her, taken aback by her words. Well, this was going well. I tried to reason, but it ended up being nothing. Flustered, we disengaged, and I wanted to go back over to Dan. I guess it didn't go as planned. Typical. The woman's as vain as can be, and if it's not her favorites, she refuses to give you the time of day, Dan said. Lovely. Do we need her? I asked. Well, we do, but screams filled the room. I looked at Dan, who shrugged. We followed the sounds, and near the bathroom, Priscilla lay on the ground, dead as can be. The police came in, and Officer Hammond questioned both Dan and me, mentioning that the last person they saw around her was a tall, shadowy figure with piercing, dark brown eyes and jet black hair. Wait, that sounded like... No, that was impossible. Vincent didn't even know where I worked, let alone knew someone like Priscilla. Still, it seems strange that the description sounded like someone like him. The pieces sat there, almost like they were asking to be figured out. Dan looked at me curiously. Something the matter? No, it's fine. I just thought I misheard something. This sounds like the same guy that's been killing politicians. Surprised they haven't found the guy yet. I nodded, but the entire time, I only thought of one person. Vincent. I refused to believe he was a serial killer. That was insane. I left the party and called Vincent, only to be left with the same voicemail message. His phone was off. I tried again, but there was no response. For the rest of the night, I called, but nothing changed. Groaning, I lay in bed, my eyes staring up at the ceiling. No, it's impossible. I wasn't dating a serial killer. That's impossible. Except, maybe it was possible, and I was just a fool. There was only one way to find out. To go see Vincent and get the truth from him directly. I know it was crazy, but I had to. A day later, I called out of work, using the excuse that Priscilla's death bothered me and I needed a mental health day. I didn't care all that much. Instead of staying at home, I drove over to Vincent's house. The place looked even more nondescript. Was it to protect him? To hide him from his crimes? I got out and walked to the door. Knocking, I waited. Come on, Vincent. I know you're there. It's me, Vincent. Ryder. Please just... The door creaked open, and Vincent came forward like a looming, shadowy figure. He stared at me and then spoke. Ryder? I couldn't respond. The words were gone. All I saw was blood. Blood on his hands. Shaking, I looked down at him. Vincent, what the hell is... You have this all wrong. How do I have it wrong? He looked at me and then inside. Come in. I'll explain it later. Vincent turned and walked inside. As soon as I stood at the threshold, I had a choice. Either follow him and get the truth, or live without the answers. Sighing, I followed him inside, closing the door. I walked to his living room where he sat down. Here, have a seat. I did so, the tension in the air growing. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. Vincent, I'm tired of these secrets. First the gifts, then the ghosted calls and messages. Now there's someone who killed a person at a work event I was at last night. Do you know what's going on? Vincent didn't respond. Anger bubbled up inside me. Tell me, Vincent! Stop leaving me in the dark! I want to, Ryder. But I can't. Not yet. So what, I'm supposed to just take you at face value? How can you prove that you didn't murder her or the others in the news? He looked up at me, the light in his eyes gone. All that sat there was a serious gaze. You have it all wrong, Ryder. I never murdered those people. Then what? What did you do? Just who the hell are you? I slept with you and went on dates with you, but I feel like I still don't know you at all. My voice cracked as I felt the anger grow stronger, completely overwhelming all sense of rationality. Vincent nodded and closed his eyes. You're right, Ryder. We've been dating long enough that you at least deserve to know. You're the closest anyone's been to me in a long time. Thank you. So, who are you? I am... Freeze! The door flew open, and a bunch of cops swarmed us. What happened next was a blur. Vincent was taken away. I tried to stop, but it was no use. They pushed me away. Finally, Officer Hammond walked forward to look me in the eyes. So, you've been seeing him. I heard rumors that he'd been seeing someone, but not you. What's going on? What's happening? I asked, dumbfounded. Officer Hammond nodded. Right, you deserve an explanation. I guess he left you in the dark. Tell me, Officer Hammond, just who is Vincent? He took a few more steps forward. The other officers were gone, taking Vincent down to the station. Sighing, he shook his head. The guy you've been seeing? He's a wanted serial killer named Dark Mark who's been on the run for over 6 months now. To be continued. Have you ever fallen in love with someone who isn't what they seem to be? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching! Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome!